Okay. So everybody who's here on YouTube, everybody who's here on. Okay, great. I'm ending this meeting, so go to YouTube or Facebook. It's not happening on Zoom. And read the weekly emails. Great. Thanks. Okay, well, we're going to get started. Okay, I see how my weekly email was confusing. It is in fact the case that we are here in the sanctuary and also on Facebook and YouTube, which is the way we're going to do things for Friday nights and Saturdays going forward. So yeah, we'll try this out. Let me know how it works for you. But we are here. Hello, it's just me. But there are people online. Okay. So that's what we're gonna do. We'll try this out tonight and see how it works. The video quality is just so much better. So that's what we're gonna do. How many do you have online? 5. So we're live. They can hear us, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But we are here in person. If there's someone who wanted to come and is watching now and thought that you weren't invited, you are invited. I see how my weekly email was confusing. I will make it more clear next week. But for now, we're here, we're online. So here we go. I'm going to start on page 5 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malchei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malchei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malchei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malchei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seifchem l'shalom, Malchei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seifchem l'shalom, Malchei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeichem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the thing that I like about Kabbalat Shabbat this week, or the thing that's standing out to me, is this thing about the angels, right? Because this is the Torah portion where we have the angels who come to talk to Abraham and Sarah and to tell them that all these promises that God has made about having a child are finally going to come true. And then the same angels who tell them this like happy, joyous news tell them also about how God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And so it's this whole epic journey that they take about whether angels are bearers of good news or of bad news. And that's what Shalom Aleichem is all about like how we greet angels and how we interact with whether it's like real angels or metaphorical angels, just like people who are bringing news into our lives. So we'll continue on page 11 with Lechu Neranena. Lechu Neranena Ladonai Naria Letzor Yishenu Nekan Mafanav Betoda Bizmirot Narialo Arbaim Shana Akud Bedor Vaomar Am Toelevavhem Vehem Lo Yadu Drachai Asher Nishbati V'yapi Im Yevon El Menuchati Shiru Ladonai Shir Hadash Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz Shiru Ladonai Baruch Shemo Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato Sapru Vagoyim Kevodo Bechol Ha'amim Nifleotav Ki Gadol Adonai Hulal Meod Norahu Al Kol Elohim Yairai Ki Kol Elohim Ha'amim Elelim Va'adonai Shamayim Asal Hod V'Hadar Lefanav Oz V'Tiferet V'Mikdasho Havu Adonai Mishpachot Amim Havu Adonai Kavod Va'oz Havu Adonai Kevod Shemo Seu Mincha Uvo Lechatzrotav Yairai Hishtachavu Ladonai Behadrat Kodesh Chilu Mipanav Kol Haaretz Imru Vagoyim Adonai Malach Aftikon Tevel Baltimot Yadinamim Misharim Yismechu Hashamayim V'Tagel Haaretz Yiram Hayam Umelo Ya'alo Sadai V'chol Asher Bo Yairai Az Yiranenu Kol Atzeyar Lifnei Adonai Kiva Lishpot Haaretz Yishpotei Vel Betzedek Ve'amim Be'emunato Yai. So now we continue our journey through Kabbalat Shabbat on page 21 with Mizmor LeDavid. Mizmor LeDavid Havu Adonai B'nei Elim Havu Adonai Kavod Va'oz Yairai Havu Adonai Kevod Shemo Hishtachavu Adonai Behadrat Kodesh Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod hirim Adonai al mayim rabim Kol Adonai Bakoach Yairai Kol Adonai Behadar Kol Adonai Shover Arazim Vaishaber Adonai Et Arzei HaLevanon Vayarkidem Kemo Egel Levanon Vesirion Kemo ven re'emim Yai Kol Adonai Chotzev lahavotesh Kol Adonai Yachil midbar Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh Kol Adonai Yachol el hayalot Vayechesof Ye'arot Uvehechalot Kulo Omer Kavod Yairai Adonai Lama Buyashava Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam Adonai Oz Le'amo Yiten Adonai Yevarech Et Amo Vashalom. We'll continue with Ana B'Koach on page 22. Ana B'Koach, B'Koach, Gedulat Yemincha, Yemincha, Tatir Tzerura, Kabel Rinatamcha, Sagvenu Tarenu Nora. Ana B'Koach, B'Koach, Gedulat Yemincha, Yemincha, Tatir Tzerura, Kabel Rinatamcha, Sagvenu Tarenu Nora. Ana B'Koach, Gedulat Yemincha, Tatir Tzerura, Tatir Tzerura, Kabel Rinat Amecha, Sagvenu Tarenu Nora. Yadadai, 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 yadadai. So we will officially welcome Shabbat with Lechadodi on page 23. Lechadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet ve'elitila lechadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nacha ki mekor habaracha merosh mikedem nesucha סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך, קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת nekabela. If you stood up for that last verse, you can sit as we turn to page 27 for the Psalm for Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, and let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age, they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Sadik katamar yifrach ke'erez balevanon yiskeh shetulim bebeit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim vera'ananim yiyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai Suri velo avlatabo. I'll just say a few quick words about the Torah portion. I sometimes I really just do not agree with parts of the tradition that we've inherited. And one of the things that baffles me is the way that the rabbis have divided the Torah portions. Because there are Torah portions that have just not a lot of action. And then there are Torah portions like this one, where you could have an entire academic semester based on a paragraph in the Torah portion. So here are the things that happen in this Torah portion. Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham and his very weird shakedown of Avimelech, which we spend no time talking about because we have to talk about all these other things that are happening that always seem to take precedence, but very strange interaction with Avimelech. The Akedah, the binding of Isaac, happens in this portion. And then we are introduced to Rivka in this portion. because it's sort of like some foreshadowing about like next time on the days of our lives in Genesis, right? So like we get like a little preview about her. And there's so I can never make up my mind about what to talk about. But I heard just before Shabbat today that the way that the story lines up is that Abraham has this sort of strange interaction with Avimelech, where he kind of concedes ownership of part of the land that God has promised to him. And then the next thing that happens is the Akedah. And so the people I was talking to were saying, well, maybe the reason that God has to test Abraham again is because Abraham does this thing that he's really not supposed to do, right? Like after all that he's been through, right? He waits so long for a child, right? And finally Isaac is here, and then this, and then this, and then this. But somehow, because he gives up this part of the land, therefore God sort of loses confidence in Abraham again. It's not really clear. I hate this interpretation, right? I hate that God is kind of messing with Abraham throughout parts of Lech Lecha and Vayera, that God says, okay, I'm going to test you. And if you go to this place that's really far away, good things will happen to you. And then Abraham gets there and there's a famine. So Abraham goes to Egypt and God seems to be like kind of mad about it, right? But then Abraham comes back to Canaan and he's blessed and he has all this good fortune. And then God says, that wasn't really a good thing. And I should be more open with Abraham and I should be more trusting of Abraham. And so I'll tell him about what's going to happen with Sodom and Gomorrah. And so God tells Abraham, and they have that whole like very famous back and forth where Abraham's like, but what about if there's 50? But what about if there's 40? But what about if there's 30? There's no good people in Sodom and Gomorrah. And so that seems to be a good moment for God and Abraham, where they're working together very well. And then they seem to kind of go through it again and not really learn their lesson. And I find these two Torah portions very confusing and very challenging, and a very kind of difficult and upsetting portrayal of God, who doesn't really seem to have a lot of trust in this person that God has ostensibly selected to be our patriarch. I'm not totally sure yet what to do with this information, other than to say, boy, even if it takes God and Abraham so long to kind of come to an understanding with each other and like a trusting, substantial relationship with each other, wow, it's going to be hard for the rest of us. And so we can kind of learn from their example and take encouragement from the fact that they are held up as an example, and we can sort of strive to do better, even if sometimes it seems like our relationships aren't going anyplace, or our work isn't going anyplace, or whatever the thing is that you're doing that seems like you're really kind of banging your head against the wall. It's like, well, okay, eventually we got someplace with God and Abraham and the many descendants. It took them a while, and so sometimes it takes us a while to build something too. More to come tomorrow, when we have the bat mitzvah of Rebecca Davino, which will be here in the sanctuary and also streaming on Facebook and YouTube. It is my intent that any services going forward, right, like any Shabbat services going forward, be here in the sanctuary where we have plenty of room, and also on Facebook and YouTube. The Zoom setup in the sanctuary was just not going very well, and I think that it's a lot higher quality when we do it this way. If you're online, let me know if you agree with that assessment. We can certainly talk about it. But that is my plan. Next week, we have a very special guest speaker on Friday evening. Lino Covarrubias of Jewish Family Services is going to come speak about JFS's work. That's hard to say. Jewish Family Services' work with the Afghan refugee resettlement efforts. So either tune in or come by. We're really eager to hear what he has to say about that. I don't think that even combined with who we have here and online, we're at 10 people. So we are going to turn to page 39, but we're going to start in the middle of the page. We're going to start Mariv in the middle of the page. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam asher b'roch. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uben laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravim, ahavat olam Beit Yisrael. Amahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al ken Adonai Eloheinu v'shochveinu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu u'vahem negeh yomam v'layla Yomam v'layla V'yavatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Melech Neman Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam V'shivtecha v'betecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'b'shochbecha u'b'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu l'tortafo b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'vish arecha. You right on that? What shall I more? Adonai Elohechem Emet. We continue together in the middle of page, at the top, of page 44. Umalchut Tovaratzon Kiblu Alehem Moshe u'Miriam u'Bnei Yisrael Lecha Anu Shira B'Simcha Rabba V'Yamru Chulam Mi Chamocha Va'elim Adonai Mi Kamocha Nedar B'Kodesh Nora Tehilot Osefele Malchutecha Ra'u Banecha Bokeyam Lifnei Moshe Ze'elianu V'Yamru Adonai Yimluch Le'olam Va'ed V'ne'emar Kifata Adonai et Yaakov Ugelo Mi'ad Chazak Mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. We read together the English on page 45. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us, O sovereign. Awaken us to life, O sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us the canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. In the absence of a minyan, we continue on page 47 with the private Amidah. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon Lechol hashalom, ki atahu melech Adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. We turn to page 56 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורר עלינו ככל המונה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו We'll turn to page 30, the prayer in place of Kaddish. This week we especially remember Bessie Belzer, Goldie Cohen, Beatrice Dresner, Stanley Featherman, Evelyn Gaynor, Clara Golan, Mary Green, Harold Grossman, Howard Hill, Jeanette Cams, Sam Kay, Shelba Levine, Berta Minkovich, Yosef Mirsky, Paul Morrison, Betty Nathanson, Jacob Rebish, Bernard Resnick, Sadie Sandler, Joseph Siegel, Abraham Strauss, Cindy Weiner, and all of those in our hearts. Ribono shel olam Elohei rechot l'chol basar, Master of the world, God of the spirit of all flesh, it is revealed and known before you that it is my desire to praise your name and to remember and honor my beloved by reciting the mourner's Kaddish in the presence of the Minyan. May my presence here today with my community find favor in your eyes and be accepted and received before you as if I had prayed the Kaddish. May your name Adonai be elevated and sanctified everywhere on earth, and may peace reign everywhere. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Praise be the name of the one whose glorious sovereignty is forever and ever. Oseh Shalom Biromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru. Amen. Quick announcements. Okay, so I see how we ended up here. I do understand how my weekly email was confusing. The plan is to be in the sanctuary and on Facebook and on YouTube for Shabbos services. That's the plan. And then weekday services will continue on Zoom, and all your other programming will continue however it's been, Zoom or hybrid or what have you. I see how we ended up this way this week. Next week, it's going to be great. Like I said, next week, Lino Kovarubius of JFS will be here, so please tune in or come in person. And I think he has a lot of interesting things to tell us. Tomorrow morning, the 7:30 service will be on Zoom. They're on Zoom. It's a lot. I know, it's a lot. They're going to be on Zoom. And then at 9:30, as always, we'll be on Facebook, on YouTube, and here in the sanctuary for the bat mitzvah of Rebecca Davino. Speaking of which, Mazel Tov to Rebecca Davino and her whole Davino Frank family. We're really excited for them. I have read her Devar Torah. You really don't want to miss it. It's just outstanding. You should tune in. It's fabulous. All of our adult ed classes have started, so you should tune into those. And you should look forward to the next upcoming Shalom Plex on November 13th. And then I have some good news and I have some bad news for you, depending on how you look at it. It's the same piece of news. The news is that Hanukkah is in 6 weeks, November 28th. So start preparing your mind for turkey and then latkes. It's going to be fabulous. And we've just this week put a whole lineup together. You're going to start hearing about that very soon. And also upcoming on November 7th, on Sunday, November 7th, we will be learning about and celebrating the Ethiopian Jewish holiday of Sigd. It will be an online event. All the information is on our website and in my weekly email and on our Facebook. It's part of the Metro West Culture Fest series. So we did that last year. We're doing it again this year. It's going to be amazing. So you should check it out. And look, even though I'm only looking at one other person right now, I know there's a bunch of you out there, and you should come to all of this stuff in whatever way you feel safe and comfortable accessing it, because we have a ton of really cool stuff happening, even still, even as it gets dark and cold. So look forward to that, and Shabbat Shalom. Let's conclude with Oseh Shalom at the bottom of page 30. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.